Welcome to the Great Big Indian Wellness Show presented by iGlobal. I'm Bhavna Bharat, and today I am going to be joined by an incredible speaker called Katya Patel, and we are going to be talking today about parenting the Ayurveda way. So if you don't know much about Ayurveda, Ayurveda is a science of life and art of living in harmony with nature. And what Ayurveda does is it gives us the tools for living that we can then apply to other aspects of our lives. And this really links up with parenting. And not a lot of people think about this. Not a lot of people give it thought that, oh, maybe I could parent the Ayurvedic way. Like, what does it actually mean? And Katya is an incredibly educated person in this field, where she is not just a yoga teacher and a trainer, but she's also had training in pregnancy and restorative yoga. She's a qualified Ayurvedic massage therapist for pregnancy and postpartum in Ayurvedic diet, and lifestyle consultant. So without further ado, I would love to speak to Katya. So I'm going to bring her on. Katya, hi, good afternoon.
Hi, Bhavna. Thank you for inviting me.
You're very welcome. I'm really excited to speak to you about this topic today. Not a lot of people seem to know what Ayurveda is, first of all, and also how can they possibly parent in the Ayurvedic way? So tell us a bit more about what actually Ayurveda is, and what is the concept of parenting the Ayurvedic way? When does it start?
Ayurveda, like you mentioned before, is the science of life, of living a long and fulfilled life. And the base of Ayurveda is the 5 elements: ether or space, air, fire, water, and earth, and everything brings back down to these elements. So these elements then are grouped into the doshas, which are more well known. So the space and air is the vata dosha, and fire and water is the pitta dosha, and water and earth is the kapha dosha. And the elements, they have particular qualities to them, and these qualities filter down to the doshas, and hence the doshas, they build the constitutional type. So we all have these 5 elements in us. They are all around in the universe, not just in us, but not just on the earth, but they are universal. And everything, has these qualities and these constitutional types. So vata has very specific qualities because air and ether is dry and rough and mobile. So this is the quality that vata has on the physical level and on the mental level as well. Pitta is fiery, it's the digestion, our transformative quality, absorbing and adapting. And kapha is the builder, so that's the earth and the heavier elements. And this is everything that builds our body and brings stability to us on all the levels. We can balance and we can imbalance, and the imbalances, they also are very specific. But what Ayurveda really is about is looking ahead. So Ayurveda is always one step ahead in looking what comes next and prepare for that. And like this, you see that in parenting as well. Ayurveda parenting starts really at the mums to be. Start when the girl comes into menarche, so when period starts, then it is to see how that phase is. If there are imbalances there, then this needs correcting, so that pregnancy, the next sort of stage in life of a woman, is run smoothly. So everything where we are, we want to see if it's balanced. If not, we want to correct it to make the next stage easy and smooth. Pregnancy, all starts before pregnancy, when both parents, when you're thinking of getting pregnant, then because the baby is influenced by both parents' constitution and also the imbalances. So Ayurveda recommends for both parents to do what is called a panchakarma, which is a sort of a very thorough, deep cleanse that goes through all the imbalances on all the levels to balance them out. Then afterwards, there's a little phase of a couple of months where the body gets built up so that the body is in the best possible position to conceive a child. And then throughout pregnancy, it is nurtured. So the mother gets specific food and can also eat specific food for the baby at that stage where the baby is in the womb. And then likewise, that when you have a smooth pregnancy, the postnatal phase is also then easier. So pregnancy, birth, then afterwards, there's a phase where the mother gets really looked after and really nurtured by family and friends and the community around her. And this is traditionally 40 days. Where 40 days best is stay fairly close, also with the baby. And I know some mothers find this rather frustrating. But the idea is that that pregnancy and the birth, the process of birth, imbalance the vata dosha quite strongly, and then afterwards we try to nourish this again, and through special food again. And through special, sweet and nutty and nourishing food, we try to balance and strengthen the mother to be ready to look after the child and after the family, to get back to health very quickly. So there are these different stages. Then once the baby is there, then obviously the baby can come into that as well. Mums and children alike, and the father obviously as well, then all do very well with structures throughout the day. Ayurveda is a very logical and a very structured science, and it flows with the energies that are present at different times of the day. So in the early morning, is the vata dosha is more present in the atmosphere as well. So it's easy to get up. So then comes the kapha dosha, sort of from 6 to 10. And that is a time that you can get up. But when you get up, then you feel often more heavy and you feel not as clear mentally as when you get up earlier. And then after the kapha dosha, you have the pitta time, around on either side of midday. So that's the fire on the outside. The sun is the highest. The fire on the inside is the strongest. So that's the time to eat the main meal if possible. And then comes again the vata time and the kapha time, and then the at night around midnight again the pitta time. So to go in these flows to suit those the energies that are in the atmosphere, to work with nature, because then we are the strongest. And then for the mother to get into rhythm, and then for the baby as well, when they are fairly small, then to have in the morning a time where they have a bath, where they have a massage, and then where they sleep again, to establish that. So once that's established, it goes throughout the day. So that keeps the children calmer. Not every baby is calm to start off with, but we can invite this calmness more with a certain structure, even if they don't particularly like it the first time or the second time that they get the massage. But eventually, they will get used to it. They know what comes, and they will also tune into that rhythm that the mother creates around the child, around the day, And the massages, for example, for the baby, but they are also for the mother. They are there to bond with the baby, to massage is a touch therapy for both, the one who is giving the massage, but also for the one who is receiving the massage. And so it very strongly helps the mother to stay healthy as well on a mental level.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the things that you've said, they're so interesting because in this generation and in the Western society now where we are, we don't hear of this very often. We kind of forget that we need 40 days to heal, that we need that time to bond. That whole ideology of it takes a village to raise a child. We don't have that village around us anymore because I guess we've all also dispersed, like we have become immigrants in different places. And so we're further away from our families. So, if you are, my family is in Africa, for instance. And so the first time when I had my son, my mom was here and she spent 6 months with me and I felt really nourished and I was back to my normal health very, very quickly because there was someone who could advise and help and say, you stay in bed, don't worry, do all these things, that's fine. We did baby massage, we did everything. The second time round, my mom couldn't come. And so I missed out on that. And I felt the difference. And I still feel the difference because even though I bonded with my child, because soon after then COVID happened, and then there was still a huge gap where he didn't get the same interaction with people around him. And definitely not the same nourishing that my first son had, because I was then looking after a toddler, looking after myself, trying to give them all great food and trying to eat well myself and breastfeeding at the same time. And you just feel drained. And
yes,
if you know about all the things you can eat and nourish yourself in a better way, then I guess it makes life easier. But again, we don't I'm 40 and you'd think I would know, but I don't. I mean, I've educated myself and I know a lot about homeopathy and, a little bit of Ayurveda and eating well during my pregnancies and after, but it is more a Western diet, more a diet that says like, eat X, Y, Z, and then, your milk will come. But I remember getting these bars from my mom that she made at home with a bit of what they call gund and nuts and ghee and all this kind of stuff. And I first thought they were terrible, but they really strengthened my pelvic muscles and my stomach and just my skin. Everything just felt better. My hair stopped falling out. And so I completely get where you're coming from in the sense that the Ayurvedic way is not just, if you're a healthy mom, your child's going to be healthy, right? Because then you are passing that on and you can look after them better.
Yeah.
But also the whole thing with routines after you've had the child. Tell us a little bit more about that, because I think a lot of people who'll be listening will be interested to see how they can form. I mean, we form some routines now. We have like they wake up, they brush their teeth, they have breakfast, get ready for school, go to school, come back, and then what? They usually just have a bit of a play or watch something or eat something and go to bed. But is that a normal routine? Could they be doing something that's a bit more nourishing for the child? And also maybe a little bit more about dosha, and how can they find out? How can people find out what dosha, would be affecting the child, or what dosha the child has? I know I particularly would be very interested in that.
The dosha, so the first 7 years, the child sort of we leave them alone with the dosha. So the body is formed and they're growing and they go through so many stages in the first few years. What I said earlier, regarding the element and the quality of the element. So, for example, if you notice that your child has dry skin, or you notice that your child tends to be constipated more, doesn't go so easily, to the toilet to eliminate, then that's a good sign that Vata dosha is imbalanced. Or the child is very restless and is very fast here and there, but the concentration in children is anyway a shorter concentration span. But in Vata, it's even more, they constantly need some new input, and they're looking, and they don't like sticking with something. The Pitta, because it's the fire element, Pitta children, the skin, always look for the skin is a good way to start. It's a very sensitive skin. The skin is tends to be a bit more reddish, and also when touch, then you can then maybe some redness comes, or they might tend to go to nappy rash faster than other ones, and because Pitta is fire imbalanced is also when you're a little bit angry and short-fused, so if that's there in the child, so if they throw the tantrum and they are very heaty, and they talk back a lot. This is this Pitta quality, and Pitta, because it's fire, tends to inflame easier, and a tendency to fever as well. So they might get a higher fever quite fast.
Okay.
And Kapha is because it's the earth and the heaviness. So the children, they are quite laid back, because Kapha is a very laid back constitutional type, and they are more laid back, and they like to eat sweet as well, because the taste of kapha is sweet, and it's the beginning till they come into puberty is the kapha phase, or the building phase. So they all like the sweets more than maybe later on in their life. And so from that, how you can see a kapha is a very symmetrical constitution as well. They might be a little chubbier, and their skin feels really nice and oily, and everything is very even in them. And so this is a way to see and to get a little bit to know from your own experience of how the child is, what the constitution might be. So after 7 years, then you can a constitution, you will need to go to an Ayurvedic practitioner, and they will find out the constitution from the child, but you will have a good idea. And then it tends, Ayurveda is about balancing. So like I said, kapha, for example, they like the sweets, but they also need to have the spices to go with them to digest that. So they need to have stimulants to digest a little bit more. With children, you will have some gentler spices, and later in life, then they might need to eat the curry, and they might need to eat the hot food, whereas the pitta, who likes the hot food and would like it, can ease off that a little bit more. So like that, imbalances makes more of it. Yeah, so it makes more of vata, it makes more of pitta, it makes more of kapha if you go with the likes. So you need to balance that a little out. And then to understand a little bit more about your children, and to see, you see what the dosha has, that you need to balance as well as a parent. Coming back to vata, because they are everywhere and here and there, and they constantly need something to do and something different. So they need that routine, that we talked about a little earlier. So they need the routine, and sort of the general idea of the routine is to get up early in the morning, also with children. So the best time is around 6 or 7. And then elimination is easier, and the clarity is there, and the clarity of the morning will take throughout the day. So we want to have that time then for children and parents. But the first thing in Ayurveda to do is to clean your teeth, and also scrape the tongue is really important also for children, to educate them. It might not be so easy because to put something into your mouth, but just to let them play a little, and then as they grow, then to take that into properly cleaning, but to give them a tongue clean, and they see what you're doing, and they will do as well. Then after that, half a glass of warm water. So the parent, they can, as a parent, or as an adult, let's say like this, as an adult, you can have warm to hot water in the morning. That's good. And you should drink it in one go. And so for that, it rehydrates the tissues, both in children and in adults. It rehydrates the tissues, it flushes the system, and everything should be eliminated. So urine and stool should be eliminated at the beginning of the day, and then breakfast. Children, because they are in this kapha phase, so they need something nourishing for breakfast, and a nourishing porridge is good. And you can put some cinnamon in, some cardamom. They ideally should have some milk. I know milk is always a little bit controversial in nowadays, but the milk as such really has lots of properties that children need. It's a nourishing food, and it's cooling as well. It's good for the nerves, and so for that, it is really good for children. For example, when I had my daughter, so it was clear that my daughter didn't do with the milk well. So for my milk, the milk that I was drinking, and often the recommendation now is, okay, cut it out, don't drink it. But Ayurveda is very strong on the body needs to be able to digest all the foods. If it is the one that you should eat, but it should also digest all the food groups, all the spices, without any problems. Okay. So my Ayurvedic practitioner then said, okay, so you need to boil your milk, put some water in, put some dry ginger pieces in, reduce it to the original amount, drink that. And within a couple of days, everything cleared for my daughter. So it was in her a weakness in her digestive system to go with the milk, some of the maybe the fat or the proteins of the milk, whatever it was. But processing the milk that I was drinking with the ginger stimulated also her digestive fire and made her enabled her to digest the milk. So she has no problems. She never was keen on milk, but she has no problems digesting it. Yeah. So this is one way, for example, on how Ayurveda is rather than stopping everything. Ayurveda looks more on how can we make the body, help it, support it so that it can digest that particular food group or that particular what it is.
It's very much about bringing the harmony back into your life, isn't it? It's like balancing things out instead of them, like saying, okay. So what you were saying that is really interesting because I was just thinking about my two boys. My 5-year-old, very chilled, loves, he could sit for 2 hours in a room and you wouldn't know he's there. He likes to build. He'll watch TV. He loves reading. He loves doing stuff. That's fine. But we always say he's the chilled out one. My second born will not sit still, will not sit in one place. He's just starting now to maybe sit for like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, like this morning. And they both wake up early, so there's no problem there. He wakes up at 5:30 in the morning, the little one. He wakes up, he'll take me downstairs. He had an apple and he sat there. I could not believe that he sat there for 5 minutes eating this apple, because I was like, he's sitting still. Like, for us, that's a novelty. But he doesn't sit still. He's not interested in the TV. He's interested in seeing what everybody else is doing, and he wants to do it, and he just wants to keep going. And he just won't stop eating. He's just constantly like in a flow of eating. If someone's eating, he wants that. So it's really, and he has extremely dry skin.
Yes.
So it's really, when you're talking, I'm just thinking, oh, okay, so maybe that is something that we need to look, because we've tried everything, Katya. We've tried see a dermatologist for his dry skin and all sorts of things, but nothing seems to the only thing that works is to take him to Africa, because the weather there
Yes.
in completely. And so
Yes.
we've just got a humidifier to add some humidity in the room to help him get some of that,
Yes.
moisture back into his skin. But it's really interesting, because I never thought, I didn't know much about these energy fields, and especially with children. So something definitely to look into.
Yes, and you see, there's a Vata, he is more Vata dominant, and the imbalance is the dry skin. It can also be, that he is fiery, and the fire dries out as well. But it needs to be, hydrated from the inside and from the outside as well. So lots of fluid intake and little sips throughout the day, not so much only at lunchtime or at breakfast or dinner, but in between, always reminding them, because if a Vata dominant people, children and adults, they forget about the food, they forget about to drink it. You need to say, no, look, now have a sip of water, then carry on what you're doing. So you need to hone them back in all the time and remind them to do certain things, to sit down, to eat, and to drink. But for him, the structure is really good, even if they don't follow it, and they always fight you with that, but it instills something in them. You do it, everyone does it. So even if they are not happy to join in, but they will eventually join in a little, and they will still benefit from that. Yeah. So he, for example, could have the spices like cinnamon. Milk would be good if he drinks it, if he's happy with that. Everything should be warm for Vata, so nothing out of the fridge. That's a general Ayurveda says, so nothing out of the fridge for children or adults, even not in the summer. Warm, tepid water, lots of water, because that really is the best. And then nourishing food. So nourishing porridge is good, and nourishing food with lots of liquid content, soupy, stewy things that are really good for them, and to nourish them, and to, from the outside, massages are really good to do. So, for example, we said in the morning massages, you could keep that. And then lunch also for children as the main meal. And then maybe after, if they are a bit bigger, you can do certain things with them in terms of yoga, for example, like Surya Namaskar. Most people, they know that. If they don't know anything else from yoga, that's a good way, to start. You can make it fun with children. Tree pose, any animals, all of these little in little spurs, all of that will help them to, for a moment, take a breath, focus, and then again. So we always want them to tap into that energy also from yoga, always expose them. And if possible, to certain times, in the afternoon when the Vata time is on and little tiredness can come in the body, then either, a relaxation, lying down with the children. I know there's so much to do. There's no time to lie down. I can wash my kitchen and do this and do that. However, when we lie down for 5 minutes, doesn't need to be more, maximum 10 minutes, have a little checking in, do a little story, have a little breather ourselves, for adults as well. The energy picks up again, and we're getting more energetic for the rest of the day. This energy will always be balanced, that we tap in with yoga. So it will not go into this hyper, but it just gives you that, so that from the day then on, you are energetic, means you're also patient, means, when your children play up and you're tired and you really need them to listen, they know that, and then they play up and think, let's use that as an opportunity, to give her a hard time.
They always know. They always know when you're either on the phone to someone, or when you're about to go to bed, that they decide to wake up. They always know when to push the buttons. But I guess what you're saying is so true. I think we don't stop ourselves. So how do we expect our children to, right? We don't anymore. The Western culture is so fast paced.
Yes.
We don't check in with ourselves. And, children learn from us. They're only going to mimic what they see. So if you are constantly on your phone, then that is what they're wanting to do. Then they want to be on their iPads. They want to be looking at the TV. But if you go outside for a walk, and they see you going for a walk, they are going to mimic that. So, that whole routine thing is really interesting, because although we have a routine with our kids, it's not a very structured routine, but there is a routine. So we make sure that they're in bed by 8:30. Like that is like the cutoff time. And on the weekends, the older one gets a bit longer with us and he can watch a bit more TV. But apart from that, we're always outside. But we've noticed now that they will both, like the youngest now, because I've just just weaned him now, the fear was that he follow the structure, that he would stay awake for longer because he would be frustrated, and but he now just will snuggle up, whinge a little bit because I'm refusing to feed him, and he'll fall asleep. So it is about that, structure for sure. But I guess we need to, if I lay down, we always do. Either me or my husband will lay down with the kids. We'll do a bedtime story, kind of check in with them. Kids, if you pick them up from school, they always say the day was good. How was your day? It was good. What did you do? Nothing, right? And then at bedtime, they want to tell you how their whole day was. But I think that's really important. Even if you let them have their 10 minutes of whatever happened, it is a way of them bonding with you and creating a harmonic kind of state where they know that they can trust you. They know that they can open up to you. It doesn't matter what time it is. And that can become part of your routine, right? You know that every evening that is what's going to happen. So that's
absolutely
structure.
And it is also, sorry to interrupt, but I just wanted to put that into that into that context. It is also very important for their mental health, that they are telling you what happened throughout the day. They need to empty their mind. They need to process what they have experienced and put that in some sort of context. Also, if it was okay and fine, then that's good. If it was really good, or if it was something that really upset them or unsettled them, to be able to speak about that helps them to deal with it. This is really a good way to work with the mental health of the children. Is super important. And like you said, we need to pick these times when they are ready to open, and not getting frustrated if we go on the walk from school back home and it was good. Done anything? No, nothing happened. But you can see that there is still something happened with a child. Maybe it is slightly different. Then give them the time to process it and wait till they are ready to open up.
Yeah, I mean that is I think that one of the most, I think as a parent you learn that pretty quickly. I learned that pretty quickly, that I need to just stop nagging him about to tell me. Like he will tell me when he's ready. And so it's been fantastic talking to you, Katja, because we could talk for ages about this subject, and I know that there's more to come from you. There's so many other things, and Ayurveda is not just this small concept. So I just want to tell people who are watching, Next time your child has a tantrum, don't yell back at them. Think that there might be a reason, maybe also, maybe there is that imbalance in the dosha. Maybe they're feeling a certain way, maybe they are just hot-headed children.
Yes.
And they don't mean, like there are some children, and I've come across children who will snap and then 5 minutes later will be completely calm. And that is just that is their nature. That is how their dosha is. And
absolutely,
it's about understanding your child's energy. And so,
yes.
If you're doing the naughty step, for instance, maybe think about changing that up and saying, well, actually, let me just have a conversation, as opposed to putting my child on the naughty step and saying, what happened? What is the problem? Let's talk about this. Validate the feelings. It's okay to cry. It's okay to feel anger. Right. Okay. So just going to wrap this up now. And thank you very much for joining us, Katya. It's been lovely speaking to you. And if you're watching, if you haven't caught up on this and you're watching on replay, you can also watch this at iglobal.com. So thank you very much and have a great afternoon.